the Rangers Journal now.
Yes, hello everyone. It is me, it is Andrew. It is 6:30 p.m. and you are live with the Rangers Journal across all the socials and indeed YouTube. Welcome to Rangers Pay the Penalty. So I've got a fantastic esteemed panel of guests this evening to dissect yesterday's League Cup final. And yes, it is still a little bit raw, but don't you worry, we'll go through the main talking points tonight. So just like to introduce, first of all, Ricky, who's joining us this evening. Ricky, how you doing, pal?
Hi, Andrew. Yeah, I'm fine. Evening, Ryan, Cammy. Yeah, I mean, it's sore. It's really, really sore because it just seems to be, forever in a life. I mean, I'm an old git now. I've seen many, many good sort of a dominance years, ever since 2012. We just cannot get on their coattail on it, But the positive for me, guys, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, is, a new chairman in today, a new CEO in today. Clermont seems to have turned that corner because he's changed that formation. So we're just holding, playing with the one single holding midfielder, which is allowing us to be a little bit more fluent, a bit more attacking, and things are just starting to look good. So, when you look at the gulf of financial sort of a difference between us and them, on the park, I don't think we're that far away, guys, and for me, that's a positive. I think we move on to the Old Firm game at Ibrox, and we just need to turn that corner, and I think we can look forward, because that was not a bad performance, just to concern what the exertions we had to put out on Thursday night against Spurs. So yes, it's disappointing, guys. Of course it is, but there's positivity there for me. Yeah.
Yeah, so the glass is half full with you there, Ricky. So yeah, we'll dissect a lot of that a little bit later on. So next up, Cammy, who's joining us. How you doing, Cammy?
I just echo Ricky's initial thoughts with regard to just sore. Seen Rangers playing many a big game and many a cup final, and it never gets any easier losing to them. And just it was the manner of the defeat having showed a wee bit of character. I think that was the one thing that I took out of it yesterday, that we didn't just lie down and die. We actually did show a wee bit of character. As much as the overall performance, I don't think was brilliant. I thought we stayed in the game and we stayed competitive, and that's my main positive that I've taken out of it. I've got lots of negativity, which is unusual for me, just with regard to tactical approach, and this long ball approach is frustrating. I just don't think we keep the ball anywhere good enough, but but the positive was we didn't just lie down and the game wasn't burst inside 20 minutes as it has been too often.
Yeah, no, that is very true, especially when you look at the some of the Old Firm games we've had in recent years. So yeah, no, definitely, you're right there, Camby. And last but not least, Ryan, how you feeling, pal?
I'm obviously disappointed. Opening up the old wounds of May 2022, losing in penalty kicks. So it's sore to take, but just like the guys are saying, it's a lot of positives to be taken from it. I think 6-7 weeks ago, I think we were dreading the week that we've just had. The fixtures we were looking towards between Spurs and Celtic coming, obviously with the cup final. I think we were worried that we were going to lose horribly. And truth be told, obviously losing the penalty kicks, yes, we've drawn both those games against two decent teams. I think we've got to look positively on that, and a lot of people are calling for the head of the manager, and I think the manager's proved those people wrong, to be honest with you, and I think we've got to get behind him now.
Yeah, no, it is kind of been billed as a bit of a make or break week, and there's definitely been some sort of improvement in the squad, and this is not the kind of results you would have predicted a few months ago. I think even 3-4 weeks ago, I think we would have looked at the cup final as potentially an absolute steamroller in, which I don't think any of us were looking forward to. But yeah, no, fair enough, Ryan. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's look at the League Cup final. So I'm going to go through the squads. So we'll start with what you class as the home team, and Celtic. So of course they had Schmeichel in goal, Johnson, Vickers, Trusty and Taylor in the back line. Bernardo, McGregor and Hatate in the midfield three, then Kun, Kyogo and Maeda. So nothing too unexpected for them. Now for us, our team sheet came out about an hour before kickoff, and there was indeed some changes from midweek. So of course, Jack Butland in goal. The interesting one, the one that people were all looking at, James Tavernier, was he going to start or not? Well, he did, alongside Leon Balogun, Robin Proper and Jefte. Then of course we had Diomande and Raskin in midfield, and then of course we had Cherny, Bajrami and Hadji, and of course Eggman up top. So I'm going to start with you, Ricky. Were there any major things you picked out from the Rangers lineup yesterday when the team was announced?
Well, there's probably a few. You've already mentioned the Tav situation. I've been saying that I would have preferred to have started Sterling, purely because Maeda has Tav's sort of a number. That Tav proved me wrong, not only yesterday but Thursday night as well. So that I'm quite pleased with the lad. He didn't let himself down yesterday. He didn't go sort of to proper was picking himself because of a big suitor getting his hamstring injury in Thursday night. So that was a kind of foregone conclusion. The only other thing we might have done was got Sterling to play that centre half, but that wasn't to be the case. I was half expecting for Ridvan and Jefte to maybe play down the left-hand side, but that would have meant leaving Bajram or Hadji on the bench. And again, I've been screaming for Hadji to be starting in that number 10 role, because I think for me, he's the one that's got the brain, he's got the 2 feet, he can make things work. And again, I thought Hadji had a good game. Your choice up top was never going to be Dessers to start. It was going to be Iggerman or Danilo. Even the two of them together, I'd like to have seen that. But Iggerman, I think he did okay, he worked well, but didn't really produce much. And I thought Cherny, we didn't get as much as him, what we could have needed in the first half. Although he came on to a better game, he was key for us to be successful. For me, yesterday, and I don't think he had a great first half. But that said, the boy's been good for the past few weeks. So yeah, I suppose the team, there was no major surprises in there. But I would have liked, probably in hindsight, to have seen Ridvan play alongside Jefte on the left hand side. So I thought on Thursday night the two were brilliant and caused Spurs problems.
Yeah, they certainly did. Cammy, was there any, obviously you were at the game with your wee man when you saw the team sheet come out. Was there anything in there that you thought was good, that you thought, oh, that might not be so good? What were your thoughts when the team sheet came out, mate?
It wasn't far away, Andrew, from what I expected. Certainly defensively, the one I expected Connor Barron to come in the middle of the park, and I would only have played one of Hadji or Bajrami. I just think at times Raskin could have done with an extra body and alongside him. Although I thought him and Diomande done well. I don't think many of the creative players middle to front were at the top of their game. I think they had moments. I think Cherny obviously has the assist late on. Hadji had his moments. Bajrami obviously scores. But I think Barron would have been the only one I expected in the middle of the park to go with him, Raskin and Diomande, and then maybe play one of Bajrami or Hadji, or as Ricky said, play Danilo as the centre forward with Iggerman coming off the left, because it felt at times that Iggerman just got a wee bit isolated. I don't think there was enough support to him. But to answer your original point, it's very difficult only 24 hours after it not to go off at a tangent, but it wasn't far away. Options were limited. I think Ricky's point with regard to Ridvan, I think he's missed a lot of football across the last 3 or 4 months. Recovery time between Thursday and Sunday, I think, probably worked against Ridvan. But I think it's something that I would like to see us try going forward. Even in the game on the 2nd of January, I think that could certainly be a tactical approach that we go for.
Could very well be. No, and it's understandable going off on a tangent. Don't you worry, Cammy. I'm the king of that, so don't you worry. Ryan, is there anybody you might have included in the squad vice somebody else? Anybody you'd have rather had starting yesterday?
I was disappointed that Danilo didn't start, to be honest with you. I'd be honest, I'd probably have taken Bajrami out of the team. Obviously, he scores the first goal, so that's why I'm not the manager and Phil Clement is. if I was picking the team, and I certainly have had Danilo in from the start, I think we see a fantastic work rate at a young E-man, to be honest with you. But sometimes his work rate does come at the detriment of our striking abilities, because quite often, he's obviously seen yesterday as the centre forward, the number 9, but he's working hard and he's collecting the ball out wide left and he's looking up to cross the ball into himself, as it would have been. Whereas if he'd obviously played the number 9, that I like to see my number 9 stay between the goalposts at all time and occupy the centre halves. And I appreciate that Wee-man's knocking his pan in for the team, and he's doing fantastic, and it's great to see his career progressing with us. But I think having him and Danilo in the same team could have caused their opposition a bit more trouble in the final third.
Yeah, no, fair assessment, Ryan, fair assessment. Just to let you all know, at home, Gary will be joining us, our resident official, and will be joining us a little bit later on in the pod, and we will be going through some of the key decisions and key moments of the game, and we'll hopefully be able to go through some of the IFAB laws as well when it comes to that. So yeah, do stay tuned for that, guys. Obviously, get subscribing, get liking, and do get your comments in the comment sections. Absolutely flooded with comments at the minute. So yeah, of course, the game started. There was a little bit of a delay at kickoff due to some flares in the crowd. And the game was quite even, wasn't it, Ricky? How did you feel kind of the first 20 minutes, half an hour?
It was Andy's game, but what was pleasing for me was they were not dominating us. We had our chances. There was a few sort of slick moments. I think Cammy's alluded to it, earlier on when he was talking. Both teams weren't absolutely great at all. Pretty matched, pretty even. And if anything, I think they probably just edged it and deserved to go in 1-0 down, albeit it was our pressing that caused their mistake. And we get a goal and we goes in 1-0 up. But yeah, I mean, I was pleased with the performance because obviously the first game of the season they just absolutely steamrolled us and we just fell to pieces, didn't we? That didn't happen yesterday. We matched them like for like. So I was pleased with our first half performance, albeit it wasn't the best, but we matched them, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's always that old saying, kind of keep it tight in the first 20, don't concede then, and then kind of see where you're at after that. But there was obviously there was some slack ball. There was there was from both sides, everybody trying to see each other out. Wasn't many shots in the game per se, but Cammy, of course, not long before half time, we actually took the lead, which is something I've not seen us really do in an Old Firm game in a long time. So Taylor with a poor pass, it's picked up by Bajrami, plays a great ball to Igmane. He then makes like a little slight dummy as it looks like he's going to take a shot, feigns to shoot, which takes the defender out of the equation, gets a shot away, it's saved by Schmeichel, it's parried out to Bajrami, who can't miss from there, and it's 1-0 Rangers just before half time. What do you make of that goal, Cammy? I bet it was absolutely bedlam at Hampden at that point.
It was, and I think I've said many times we haven't scored the first goal in an Old Firm game for as long as I can remember. So I think it was vitally important that we scored the first goal. There was a wee panic. I think VAR has introduced this because Bajrami was he just looked as though he was standing in an offside position, because I think it's just human nature now that you're celebrating, but you're expecting a flag to go up, you're expecting the referee to do whatever, But I thought we had, in the first half, we'd started quite brightly the first sort of 5-10 minutes, and then I thought they had sort of came back in and had the better of maybe the next 15-20 minutes, and then it ebbed and flowed. It was quite an end-to-end sort of game, and then we were 1-0 up, Andrew, and I was just like, get to half time at 1-0, get to half time. It's just these games, you're just like you break them down in sort of 10-minute portions sort of thing, So I think it was important that we got the first goal, and I think Paul's point with regard to we did press, that was another positive. Our pressing was better. I think it's certainly back to the days of Dessers and Lawrence seemed like a long time ago with regard to the fact that they didn't look as though they were in the same postcode with regard to pressing. So I think we were good in that regard. But it was bedlam. Everybody was wee man was throwing 50 feet up in the air and what have you, and living his best life at that point.
Oh, absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And as you say, yeah, to get that kind of lead before halftime and try and go in at halftime, you know, a goal up is absolutely fantastic and something we don't do often enough. And Ryan, just before halftime, actually, we could have been 2 up because there was a great chance when Balogun intercepted the ball and goes on a crazy run. And there's a point where he can just play Igman through. He's like, you're looking at him, go, play it now, play it now, play it now. He doesn't do it. He keeps the ball and kind of gets into the area. And then he kind of just runs into a bit of trouble. Should we have put that away?
Aye, possibility. I mean, I turn to my friend next to me and goes, "Is that guy there, Leon Laudrup?" So it's he certainly took the ball. But it's one of these ones. It's there. What if he just stuck his big toe through it himself and just had a blast at it? You know, I think Bagheera done that many years ago against Dundee United at Ibrox. It's certainly one of the more memorable goals I remember when I was there. It's incredible, to be honest with you, but I think the big man just ran out of steam, to be honest with you. But it was a great opportunity. It's come out of nothing, but I think the fact that we went 1-0 up at half-time, the players were coming off at half-time. I was reasonably close to the tunnel as well. They're looking across to us, they're patting the badge, they're kind of fist pumping and stuff like that. I felt the players were really engaging with the fans as well. I think, you know, they're certainly becoming a bit more of a kind of harmony, you know, a synergy between the players and the fans now, which is great to see. So long may that continue.
Long may that continue, indeed, yeah. And it was almost disappointing we didn't go 2 up before halftime because I know what they are like. I know that they'll come out in the second half and kind of they might be a little bit different. So it's, you know, kind of I was thinking, oh, you know, we could have got that goal there, but you know what, we're a goal up, it's good. Second half obviously started. Celtic came out the shell a little bit. They weren't all-out attack by any stretch of the imagination, but they went close with a free kick by Bernardo, and it was Scales, I think, got his head on it. Scales, who had been subbed on for it was for Johnson, wasn't it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because you had appeared to that's it. You're right, it was Trusty because he appeared to have a bit of an injury and did come off. Then Ricky, we I knew we'd kind of rue our chance, but obviously when Celtic were building, Cheney intercepted the ball in midfield, drives forward, plays it to Igman, and Igman has options here. We are 4-on-1 at this stage. He plays it right to Bajrami, despite having Diamandi and Cheney on his left, who are literally in if they receive the ball. Bajrami goes to cut the ball across the goal, and it's cut out fairly decently, actually, by Carter Vickers. Ricky, should we have put that away?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, even that final ball, to get to that final ball where Carter Vickers cut it out, it was fantastic play for us. And then you had the energy for 4 players to be up there to support it. So even if you just dummied the shot and dummied it, because Carter Vickers had committed himself, he could have just put the dummy in and then he could have just laid it across an open goal to 3 players. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, Andrew. We all know that. But what was it, 2-3 minutes later, they got the park and it was 1 each. And we're all thinking, you know, it should be 2-0. It's a totally different game, you know. They have to come at us. It totally changes the whole, because it literally was about 3 minutes later, bang, 1 each. And yeah, we should have capitalised on that. We should have been 2-0 up 4 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, no, that is it. And we'll get onto that equaliser now, Cammy. So obviously the equaliser comes from a corner for them. Ball in, gets partially cleared to the edge of the area as far as Greg Taylor, who gets a bit of a limp shot away, but it deflects off Raskin's outstretched foot, bobbles past Butland. 1-1. Was that deserved for them at that point?
It felt like deja vu. The fact that that's the second time that little turncoat has got a goal against us.
At Hampden as well.
At Hampden as well. You know, I mean, it's Ricky's spot on. That's how these games go. Yeah, you have to be clinical and you have to take your opportunities when they come along, and they get the goal, get back on terms, and then they obviously kick on and get the second after that. But I wouldn't say it was deserved. I mean, I think they had showed a wee bit more in the early part of the second half, but it's just such a fortuitous goal. It was one of these ones from the stand. It sort of happened in slow motion. That's what it appeared. You know, you could you could almost see Butland going that way and the deflection taking it the other way. So yeah, hugely disappointing, having worked so hard to get ourselves ahead and then having the opportunity to put a wee bit of daylight. I always say that the first goal is important for Rangers, but the second one's even more important. We're not the type of side that can do a 1-0 with the Arsenal. There's always a danger that sort of thing happens.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it was disappointing because they hadn't really carved too much in the game. First half, there was that chance they had where they were cutting it back. Butland did well to kind of get to the ball, goes to the edge of the area, and he pulls off a great save. And you think, okay, maybe it's going to be our day, because that was the only really thing they'd done before that at that point. But of course, yep, they were in the ascendancy. And they were building at this point after they'd scored. So Kenny intercepted the ball in midfield, drives forward. We've got a kind of rare opportunity, plays it to Igman. Igman, oh no, I'm reading the team run again. Sorry, guys. You can tell I want to relive that 4-on-1 again, of course. But yeah, one thing I did notice actually, because we had a corner around not long after that. We had 9 corners in this game. And I'll ask you this one, Ryan. Did we utilise our corners well enough during this match?
Absolutely not. Andrew, the corners are pathetic. Absolutely pathetic the whole game. I don't think we beat the first man the entire game. The corners were beyond belief shocking, to be honest with you. And even ones where we're even trying to do things like change the angle, try to play a wee bit short. Poor. Although you could argue our second goal without jumping ahead could have came possibly from a corner there. If you watch it, if you're very optimistic and you want to get the granny off and you want to get the kind of, what's it, the monkey off your back, arguably the second goal was from a corner. But no, as far as I'm concerned, Tavernier's Hadji's just not good enough, not beating the first man. If you're going to aim for the first man, you got a problem with beating the first man, you get put a guy in the front post. I think Joe Aribo used to be fantastic at making near post runs for us and nodding them on and stuff, but simply just not good enough.
Simply not good enough. It is a fair assessment. We don't seem that organised at corner kicks. I think Hadji took one that kind of was very low and kind of just hit the first man. Didn't even go into any of the goal, to be fair. And yeah, we'll talk about that second goal in a minute, because yeah, that's going to be an interesting one actually, if we do class that as coming from a corner, because it was well worked, to be fair. But obviously at this point, Celtic in the ascendancy, they're looking for that second goal. They are putting on some pressure, a couple of shots wide of the mark. Then Butland kicks the ball out to midfield. A Celtic player goes to head the ball, misses it completely, then somehow has the time to get back to the ball without any pressure from us. Punts it forward. Raskin tries to play the header back, however it's slack. Maeda gets to it. Balogun and Maeda both stick a foot in. Maeda gets the first touch, drives forward. He's 1-on-1 and he buries it. 2-1. Yeah, it starts to feel like one of them days, doesn't it, Ricky? Celtic take the lead in the cup final and in the ascendancy. Did you think the game was done then at this point?
No, and I have to say, Maeda took his goal well. He was all over it. He had the tenacity. He just wanted that ball, didn't he? And it was a shame for Raskin, because Raskin's been solid for us for the past few games, and he's put a big Balogun under. He set him short, and then the ball was up in the air. Mike was making that all his. You couldn't really bring him down, as he'd be getting sent off, and then he got a great first touch, which made Butland commit himself, and the boy put it away well. So it was a good goal from their perspective, but we gave them it away. Bad goal for us to lose. Defense, it wasn't great. But no, we still didn't feel. I mean, there was still 32 minutes still to go when that goal went, I think it was, wasn't it? So there was bags of time. And it's a cup final. Rangers, for me, were still up and at it. But I always had concerns the longer that game went on, because of our exertions on Thursday night, we would tire. Celtic are predominantly strong towards the end of the game. And I just knew that was going to be, and then obviously we'll talk about it later, when they did make it 3-2 in the 86th minute, I thought that was it, because I just thought they've overpowered us now because we're all knackered. But obviously we got the equaliser, took extra time. But yeah, I didn't think the game was finished at that time, Andrew, at all. No, I was still hopeful that we'd try and get something out of it.
Yeah, and something we got out of it in a sense. We did indeed. Cammy, of course. Now, this is where we're going to get into the debate of is this scored from a corner or not? It was well worked. We played a short corner. Then the ball was fired into the area from, I think it was James Tavernier. Diomande cleverly chests the ball down at the side of him, takes a shot on the turn, despite, I think it was Engels had his arm all around him, and he just fires the shot away. 2-2. What a great goal that is. Now, do we count that as scoring from a corner? I can't even say it. Easy for me to say. Do we count that as scoring from a corner, Cammy?
No, we're clutching at very big straws if we think that that's scoring for a corner. My version of it is George Albert's taking the corner, Richard Gough rises and heads the ball into the top corner. That's scoring for a corner. So no, set pieces. That's a whole podcast in itself. Do we actually practice them? I don't think even need to. It's not a great science taking a corner. You just put the ball into a good area, lift it off the deck. It's no, that's why Arsenal are so successful. They've got two players, Declan Rice and Saka, who are world class deliverers of the football. But it was nicely worked. I'll give us credit with regard to that. It was nicely worked, and Dio sticks it away, sort of situation. So I was pleased. I thought Diomande had a decent game, and you've got yourself back into it at 2-2. The ebb and flow of an Old Firm game, certainly what it has been over a long period when I've been watching. But it was a well worked goal, and I was pleased for Dio that he stuck it away.
Do you know what I really liked about that goal was just the fact that it was in such a tight position, because we don't normally play too well with the chances like that in a real tight position. And I just thought Diomande he did well there to chest it, turn, and just take it into the net, especially at that time as well. Not too much happened after that. Then, of course, Celtic's equaliser came, Ryan. So there was a quick transition starting from Schmeichel, a couple of quick passes, and we were getting sucked in a little bit, and just Celtic are through. Typical Celtic type goal. Ball played out to the byline to Engels, who blasts it back into an on-running Kuhn, who is just to pick his spot. 3-2. So I've put a Celtic's equaliser. No, it was 3-2. That's when we went 3-2 up. 86 minutes in. I don't think any of us thought we were coming back from that. Ryan, just deflation at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a kind of led from a mistake from Reed Fan. He's went to try and cut the ball out when he probably should have actually just, tried to follow the ball back in. I mean, how often do we see them getting in behind us and, cutbacks and crosses for guys standing unmarked, which is what happened there. I thought that was unsunk, to be completely honest with you. I thought that was basically dead and buried. So they've done well to show a bit of character, as we spoke about earlier on, to come back into it. But it's a poor goal from our perspective. And again, like what Ricky was talking about, legs and stamina, and obviously exertions of Thursday night, all these things are coming into play at this point in time. There's questions over a foul possibly in Diomande as well. Did he clip his heels before he actually got the cut back towards him? Maybe. Don't know. I've not seen a decent enough replay of it to make a decision on that for myself. But it's a disappointing goal to lose, but we've lost how many of that style of goal to them. So it didn't at the time, unfortunately, come as a surprise to us.
Yeah, no, it's history repeating itself as per usual, and it's something that just at that moment I was like, game's done. Game's done. We're not coming back from this now. They've scored as they do late on in the game, and they'll just see it out now. But unbelievably, within about 21 seconds, what a way to do it. Cheney has the ball out on the right wing, plays a beautiful cross into the mixer for the on-running Danilo, who just came on and is sandwiched between Carter Vickers and Ralston, and he just scores a great header, which I think was his first touch. I can't 100% confirm that, but it looked like his first touch. What a time to score, Ricky.
It's amazing. Cheney, that was just an amazing cross. You could see once again, he just sort of hit it with his leg, back upfield, into his favourite foot. And he saw Danilo, and he just picked him out, inch perfect. And it was actually quite an easy header for the lad. He just made it, smack in the middle, bang past him straight. And what a goal. And I'm thinking to myself, what was that, 88th minute, wasn't it? We're going to win this. We're definitely going to win this. But I needed it in my own mind for it to happen in the 90 minutes, because I definitely knew extra time they would overpower us, because we were getting tired at this stage. So, we had 5-6 minutes from that goal to then get the winner. And it was at that time there, I think we should have or could have went on and clinched the game. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
Yeah, no, it was absolute bedlam. I was in the London branch, and the roof came off the place, and the roof is essentially London Bridge, so it was absolutely incredible. Oh God, it was just unbelievable. It was if you're a neutral, it's a great game of football. If you're a fan of either team, you're just pulling your hair out and just wanting it to end in some respects. But yeah, no, it was a good point for the game. Especially with the remaining minutes. Now we're going to be joined now by Gary, so I'm going to introduce Gary into the mix. There we go. How you doing, Gary? You all right?
Evening, Andrew. Yeah, all well, thanks. Evening, chaps.
Yeah, so Gary is our resident official, and he's the man to talk to about the laws of the game and interpretation of those laws. So you've come in at a really good point, actually, because we've just had Rangers equalising late on. And before we get on to the penalty incident, which is pretty much the next thing that happened, I'm just going to ask you in regards to Celtic's second goal, because, of course, there was the Diomande foul. I'll use the bunny ears here just because it's obviously not necessarily a foul. So, of course, in the build-up to Celtic's third goal, Diomande was tripped, fouled or clipped in the build-up. Did him being fouled have any direct impact on the move? Would he have been tracking Kuhn if he wasn't on the floor? So, Gary, should that have been brought back for a foul at that point?
I've watched it back a couple of times. I watched the game live, and I didn't notice it in real time, I'll be honest. Watching it back after it was highlighted in various group chats, it's hard to make out if it was a touch. And when I watched on Sportscene, it didn't highlight it at all. So it's hard to actually see if it was a touch. That's where I think the Rangers players should make more of a fuss about it, just in case it's completely gone unnoticed. And if VR have the appropriate cameras to zoom in or check the touch, it absolutely should be disallowed. Because it's Kuhn's direct marker, essentially, as he's running into the box. The foul's happened, completely accidental if it's happened, but it's still taking Diomande out of the game. And you can see, obviously, the cutback comes straight back to Kuhn all the time they were in the box, and Diomande's on the deck. So, kind of in a similar vein to, I think it was the Dessers goal disallowed in the 3-3 game last season. The attacking phase of play hadn't changed at that point. It was still the same attacking phase of play. There was no reset of that. So the foul taking place within that would mean it would negate the goal because there's a direct impact on the play.
Direct impact on the play, yeah. No, obviously we've seen a lot of that now when it comes to VAR, and I think we could reel off quite a few Rangers ones where play's been brought back, kind of no matter how early it is in that kind of phase, but we have seen it before. So yeah, no, good to have your take on that one, Gary. So now let's get to the penalty incident. So, of course, 84 minutes, game's poised evenly at 3-3. And, of course, we can't go through an Old Firm game without any sort of controversy, which there just seems to always be in recent years. Now, as time was wearing thin, we looked like the side that was maybe going to get the late chance because, we just scored and a chance of sorts came. So, of course, the ball is played to Scales. He takes a terrible touch. Czerny puts him under pressure, wins the ball. Scales puts his foot in and has a hold of Czerny's shirt, pulls him to the floor. Beaton blows for a free kick just outside the area as soon as Czerny loses the ball. Free kick is hit by Tav, obviously high and over. Now, at the time, it was quite difficult to see because there wasn't really too many replays at that moment. It's clear to see that there is contact outside the area. However, this continues into the area via a pull on Czerny's shirt. Simple question, Gary. Is that a penalty or a free kick?
It is a penalty. Whether the foul started outside the box or not is kind of irrelevant. Until the whistle goes, the play's still live, which means anything that happens can still be penalised. So in that instance, obviously the foul started outside the box and continued inside a little bit, albeit on the line. So when the referee blows the whistle, he then takes into account the more serious offence that was taking place before the whistle's blown, which would obviously be the penalty. Now, in fairness to the on-field ref, it's a very difficult one to spot. I've been in the situation loads of times when it's been on the line, just outside the line. It's very difficult to see in real time. So the first phase of communication between the referee and the linesman on that side. So the instructions usually pre-match are for the linesman to try and get a view on it because he's looking across field. So in theory, he might have a better view on it. And what would happen is if he thinks it's a penalty, he'd run straight to the corner flag. If he thinks it's outside the box, he'd take a couple of exaggerated steps to the left, indicating definitely not a penalty, definitely outside the box. I didn't pick up what the linesman done yesterday, but you can see Beaton having a look across. So obviously between those two, they've decided it's just outside the box, which is fair enough. It's a difficult one to spot, but that's where I can't quite understand why VAR hasn't intervened. I think the check was over fairly quickly. And again, there's no rational explanation why it hasn't been checked thoroughly, other than they've basically missed this one completely and not done the job properly.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting one because, of course, the Premier Sports commentary team, which they do get kind of a little bit of insight, they can hear sometimes what is going on. The commentary team did claim that VAR did have a look at it and was satisfied with the free kick. Ricky, you wanted to say something there, pal?
Just exactly that, Andrew. Sorry, because I was watching in the club down in Harrogate with 45 lads, and again, a fantastic atmosphere. But we were under the impression from the commentators at the game that VAR did actually get involved with that, because there's a little bit of confusion. Did VAR get involved? We were under the impression they did do, and they were happy with the decision that the referee made. So if that is the case, then VAR and the referees all got it wrong then.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. Like I said, I'm not sure the exact intervention yet, what happened. Like I was watching it with a crowd of people, so I couldn't exactly hear the commentary, as what tends to happen. But if they've got involved and saw that and they've not awarded the penalty, essentially they've got it completely wrong. I don't think I've heard a pundit yet describe it as anything other than a penalty, no matter what side of the old firm they seem to come from. So yeah, it's just a completely wrong call. Unfortunately for Rangers in this case. And being at an extra time, it's quite a crucial time in the game, so you think they would have spent a little bit longer looking at it.
Yeah, no, do you know what? That's the thing as well. Seeing today just the amount of people and, current officials, ex-professionals. You've got, I saw a comment on Twitter from @TheRefsView, which is SM Media's kind of referee pod. They actually said, don't know when he blew the whistle. Obviously, that can be a factor in it. It doesn't matter if there's a foul before the tug. The ref can allow advantage for simple fouls. IFAB allows for the foul to be given in the area. If it continues into the area, it's undeniably a penalty. So they use the word undeniably. IFAB Law 12, if a defender starts holding an attacker outside the penalty area and continues holding inside the penalty area, the referee must award a penalty kick. This is 100% a penalty kick, which was the comment from former referee Bobby Madden. So, of course, yeah, it's one that just seems to be quite unanimous, especially at a kind of key point in the game. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to find out because, of course, we have had a little bit of breaking news in the past hour that from Raman Bardwaj from STV, he's put out on Twitter that he understands Rangers Chief Executive Patrick Stewart on day one of the job has spoken with the SFA seeking an explanation as to why the team wasn't awarded a penalty in the League Cup final. So that is something that's kind of just been breaking recently. So it does seem like we are going to be pursuing an inquiry into that. We've had a good comment coming in from Paul, who says, do you think that Balogun fouled Vickers for the Diomande penalty incident? The ball was away and minimal contact. So, Gary, what's your thoughts on this one, pal?
I saw in real time. I didn't see the foul on Carter Vickers until afterwards. I actually thought John Beaton had blown for a dive against Diomande, the way he indicated afterwards. And then the camera sort of panned round and you saw Carter Vickers lying on the ground. Having watched it back, I don't think there's a foul on Carter Vickers. There is a little bit of contact, but in my opinion, it's what we would call normal football contact, which is permissible. It's not a foul. Balogun's not wanting to do him, and it's a sort of fairly minimal touch. However, what I would say is I don't think it's a penalty, even if John Beaton doesn't give that foul. There's minimal contact on Diomande, and I do think he's looking for it, in all honesty. So if it happened to award the penalty in that instance, I think it could possibly have been overturned. But if he doesn't award the penalty and there's no foul on Carter Vickers, I still don't think VR overturning it and giving the penalty. Just one of these things. I think, obviously, I don't think it's a foul on Carter Vickers, but it's largely irrelevant because I don't think it's going to end up as a penalty in the end of the game. And John Beaton stuck to the process quite well in that one because it's still the attacking phase of play. In his head and probably on comms, he's signalling that he probably thinks it's a foul on Carter Vickers, but he has to let the attacking phase play out. As soon as there's an incident he's got to blow up for, i.e. penalty or non-penalty, if it's a dive, that's the attacking phase of play finished, and then he can signal for what he thinks has happened to Carter Vickers. If that's the case, and it should have been a penalty, VR then intervene and say, actually, why don't you come have a look at this, and then can get all sorted out. But he stuck to the protocol perfectly on that one. But again, I don't really think it's impacted anything. I don't think it's a penalty, and I don't think it was a foul, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal, in my opinion.
Okay. That's very thorough there, Gary. I'm enjoying this. It's good to get that kind of insight that you are giving. One more thing, because obviously we went to extra time. No shots on target from either side in extra time. I think we were looking absolutely knackered by this point. I think Celtic weren't looking too sharp either. I think, to be fair, they were pretty happy to go towards penalties by the looks of things. Obviously, the penalties obviously came to be. The coin toss was for the Rangers end, and we got to take the first penalty, which was great. Big kudos to Tav stepping up and taking the first penalty, and as usual, burying it. Obviously, there was some little kind of things that we've been picking up on. Good penalty from the vice-captain, Butland. Obviously, a lot of question marks over why Butland was taking a penalty, but he is the club's vice-captain, and he does seem to be good at penalties, so, why not? Obviously Yilmaz's miss, obviously that wasn't a great take. It does happen. You could see Butland did his homework and guessed the right way for Engels' penalty, but sadly couldn't stop it. But of course, Celtic obviously ended up winning the shootout, 5-4 in the shootout. What I wanted to pick up with you here, Gary, is it might be classed as something minor, but it is something that was kind of was noticed during the shootout. Schmeichel and encroachment. Now, obviously, Schmeichel was kind of positioned to the left-hand side, kind of in the box. Is that enough to be classed with interfering with play? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it had an impact on the outcome of the penalties, but should John Beaton have been telling them to move back?
Yeah, what you'll notice is the linesman, there'll be one linesman positioned on the goal line and then one in the centre circle keeping the two squads there so they can't make their way downfield or anything. The guy on the goal line, well, generally if it's a normal penalty in the normal 90 minutes, will stand on the edge of the 18-yard box so he can quickly get back on the line in case there's a keeper saves it that comes back into play. But for a penalty shootout, he actually stands in the 6-yard box. He's got a slightly better view because obviously there's no danger of the ball coming out for a replay or anything. In this instance, I've been in this situation myself where it's quite difficult to keep an eye on the goalkeeper behind you. And because he has your responsibility in that position, but also watch the line and make sure the goalkeeper's not encroaching or the ball's crossed the line, etc. It has happened to me personally, and as long as it's not ridiculous levels, you kind of almost let it go a little bit in the grand scheme of things because it's unlikely to impact the goalkeeper or the penalty taker. What I sort of picked up on watching the game was, and generally there's no set rule on this, but it's generally avoided that the goalkeeper can't noise up or wind up or have sportsmanship against the guy coming up to take the penalty. He can do it from his line, but he can't really do it standing over the top of the penalty spot when the ball is placed. And Kasper Schmeichel, I don't know what he was saying to John Beaton, but he seemed to enter a discussion every time the Rangers penalty taker was coming forward. And John Beaton never told him to get back on his line. So he's standing over the penalty spot pretty much every time the Rangers taker comes to place the ball. That should have been cut out after the first time it happened, and John Beaton should have been switched on to realise what was happening. Because it basically opens itself up to lots of things like the goalkeeper digging his studs into the penalty spot or anything without you really seeing it. And also it can I think it was Emi Martinez, one from England, that kind of led to this being a rule, if you like, where you don't let the goalkeeper stand there and noise up the penalty taker. So there was a lot went on that probably wasn't textbook, if you like, but I think that was the most egregious. But again, I think it's kind of clutched a little bit. You've got to, if you're stepping up to take a penalty, there's got to be a lot of influence, if you like, and you've kind of got to shut it out. I think it was Hadji got it worst off Schmeichel, and then he was laughing back at him, giving him a chat back. That's kind of what's got to be done in these situations. There's got to be a lot of back chat between the keeper and the penalty taker. You see it all the time. They shout all sorts. I know what side you're going. I see you do this all the time, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of kind of shit chat that goes on that the sort of punters don't obviously hear quite a lot of the time. But again, I wouldn't be too hung up on Schmeichel coming in a yard or two from outside the box, but more standing over the penalty spot when the ball was getting placed.
Okay, no, that's good insight because, you know, personally, in my opinion, I didn't think that it was directly interfering or impacting, but you do have to look at these things sometimes, and of course, you're seeing it from the other side as well. Of course, I don't even think about, you know, possibly, you know, digging the studs into the spot and stuff. Not that he was doing that, but you know, things can happen that you're not noticing, and Beaton probably did need to assert his authority there and say, look, stay back, be where you need to be. I'm going to ask you two further questions, Gary, just two. And they're quite simple ones. What do you rate John Beaton out of 10 for his performance yesterday? 1 being poor, 10 being good.
Oh, put me on the spot here. Probably about a 5, I would say. Generally, all the decisions given within his purview, if you like. So I'm not counting the Czerny penalty incident as his, because it's a very difficult one to see. And it's decisions like that VR's brought in to kind of address. I thought the major decisions were all fine in the game. I don't think there's anything major that he could reasonably be expected to spot, which he didn't give. The reason for I'd bring him down a few marks is because I thought there was a period in the second half, or possibly extra time. It's kind of, I'm a bit mixed up with this one, that he kind of lost the plot a little bit with the yellow cards. And he seemed to dish him out very easily compared to the previous context of the game in which cards have been given. Now, all kind of players usually ask for, and I think I look for as a referee myself, is to be consistent within that game. Some games are more fiery than others, and you can hold the cards back a little bit, which tends to be the case in Old Firm games. But in the context of the game, being consistent, I don't think he was with the yellow cards. I think there was two late on, which stood out to me as being ridiculously harsh, and it was Dessers.
Yeah,
I think it was his first involvement in the game, and Yanis Hadji. Yanis Hadji, when I think he kind of stepped across Alistair Johnston's path, or it might have been Anthony Ralston by that point. There'd been a couple of incidents earlier in the game, very, very similar, where it actually play on, didn't even give the foul. But then this one became a yellow card. That's what really annoys fans and players most, I feel, like just inconsistent when you've seen similar incidents go unpunished. So I think there's a point in the game where he lost the plot a little bit with the cards, and obviously it's a pressured environment, but he'd been calm up to that point, and they'd actually been quite good with the cards until then, and then it just kind of went away from him a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and it was interesting because there was, I think, 8 cards for Rangers and 2 for Celtic. Obviously, you can't always measure that. Actually, depends on the type of challenges and, you know, prolific repeated offences as well. But of course, yeah, the Dessers one did stand out a little bit for kind of just being first involvement in anything really, and it was a card. Now, the last question I'm going to ask you, Gary, because I know you're a busy man, and thank you ever so much for your time coming up this evening. VAR marks out of 10, 1 being poor, 10 being phenomenal. What do you reckon?
I'm trying to think if there's any more VAR incidents in the game.
I don't think there was. VAR, I don't really know.
So there's basically the Nicholas Kuhn Diomande trip, I'll say, because again, I'm not entirely sure there was a touch, but if it was, it's worth looking at. And then the Czerny penalties, two major incidents they had to have a check of. And possibly, I've seen an article today about Jack Butland potentially handing outside the box. That's a simple one. So even the on-field linesman should be able to get that. So I wouldn't regard that as a successful decision by VAR. So 2 major incidents. I don't think they got either of them right if there's been a touch on Diomande. So you've got to give it probably a 0. if you get 100% decisions wrong, it's got to be a 0. And I think VR does a really good job most of the time. It gets a lot of flack because of the time taken to reach decisions sometimes, but the overwhelming majority of decisions are correct. But it's just dropped the ball a little bit on this game. And yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a good advert for VAR, is it? Especially when the technology is there to help and assist, and it's missing big incidences in the game. But no, Gary, thank you ever so much for your insight. It's always good to hear you and good to hear your thoughts on everything. With the rules of the game, the laws of the game, and obviously what happened yesterday. So thank you ever so much, Gary. Now we're going to have a look for the last little bit of the show at some slides that we've got, because there has been a bit of a change in Rangers, and I'm going to ask the guys some questions very shortly, just before the end of the pod. So basically, I'm going to just load up the first slide here. So we're going to have a look at Rangers and how we've kind of improved, so to speak. So this slide here kind of shows us with our improvements and how we have kind of improved. So to be fair, I've loaded up the wrong slide. I should do this slide first. This will be a little bit better. That's the one. So in September, you could see this is the kind of way that we press. It shows our poor positioning, players clubbed together, leaving large spaces between attack and midfield. And we've got our second one here, which shows the team just really flat, lacking shape, huge open space between them, allowing us to be played through easily. That was one of the big things in that first Old Firm game. There was a couple of times that Kyogo was just running through a gap, just waiting for the ball to be played to him, because we just weren't covering the space very well. That was one thing that was really noticed. In December, as you can see here, where from the game on Sunday, the improvement here shows the team shape easily identifiable as people maintain good positions and distance. This kind of chokes the space and makes it harder to play through. So you can see the great difference there. We're a little bit more compact. We are looking better, and we're not getting ran through like we were earlier on in the season. And just to have the last slide here, it shows more even spacing across the pitch, allowing us to spread the play. And from this, it leads to the Czerny chance. So you can see just the way we are there. So Ricky, I'm going to ask you first, pal. How do you think there's been enough improvement from Rangers over this kind of past couple of weeks? And do you think that Clement is still the right man for the job?
That's quite a lot of questions there, Andrew. I was a big advocate of Clement had to go. He had to go because his stubbornness was killing us. We were easy to play against. Was it Hibs league game recently at Ibrox, and they had 18 chances on goal because of the way we were set up. They could play against us. Again, we were easy to play against. He's changed that formation. Whether it's because he's listening to the kind of the fan pressure or pressure from the board, whatever, and he's now kind of released the kind of two holding pivot guys, and he's now just playing with the one. So there's a lot more flair within the team, and the pressing seems to be together, and we're working as a cohesive unit. So for me, Clement's got a reprieve. He might get a little bit more support now from the board, now that the board's got the chairman and the CEO in today. So we'll see how that goes. There's a January transfer window around the corner. And over the past 5-6 games, we have looked an awful lot better than what we were 5-6 weeks ago. We were all sort of at the end of a sort of a tether with Clement, but I think he's starting to turn it around. He's starting to turn me around, that's for sure. And if we can continue in the same sort of a vein that we've shown in the past 6 games, with a little bit of support and backing from the board come January, getting the likes of young Cortez back in the team, everybody else, a fit Danilo, a ready to go fit Hadji, with a good bench, which I think is key to all this, then I think we could go on and have a real good positive second half of the season. Whether we can catch them, I'm not too sure, because we might have allowed them to be away too far ahead of us at the moment. But we are in a good position, and a better position we've been for a long time, of making improvements and inroads and getting the fans back on board, because for me, the result aside yesterday, we have been a lot more positive, mate, in the past 6 weeks, and that can only be good. So yeah, Clement is he's starting to get it, mate. I think as far as his formation is concerned.
Yeah, no, very well said there, Ricky. Cammy, have you seen enough of a change within the squad, enough of a positive change, and you still think that Clement is the man for the job for now?
I'm pleased that I've seen a bit more flexibility. I thought he was very stubborn, so I think that's a positive across the last few weeks with additional personnel becoming available. I think it's almost forced his hand with regard to the options that are available. Jury's still out for me with regard to him. You can't keep getting beat with Celtic. That's the reality of the situation. Loses on the 2nd of January, the pressure is only going to intensify. I think we're short of a centre half. I still want an experienced head in the middle of the park. As much as Raskin's playing really, really well, doesn't necessarily have to be a number 6, but I still think we need quality through the spine of the side. I don't think it's a January window that's going to fix that. I think we're still 2 to 3 transfer windows away from where we need to be. But I think that the issue is if you continue. That comment pretty much nails it. I remember a couple of weeks ago saying we play Aberdeen on the 15th of January, having played Celtic a couple of weeks before that. I think that where the land lies in about a month's time will be much clearer, to be honest with you. I want them to succeed, but I do still have a lot of reservations, Andrew, with regard to the way that he wants to play across. We're now over a year into his tenure, and I see improvements in the last few weeks, but I still don't see a discernible style of play that I want to see a Rangers team playing. It felt very hoofball at times, and I think we need to keep the ball far better. So I've went again around the houses there, but I think there's a lot of areas that I'm still worried about.
Yeah, no, to be fair, the hoofball was annoying me yesterday as well, because there was only about one in about, it felt like 15 or 20 that actually did make it to a Rangers player. We were just given possession back. No, very well articulated there, Cammy. Now, Ryan, you're going to have the last thoughts now. Is Clement still the man for the job? Have you seen enough of an improvement within the squad, or is the jury still out for you?
I believe so. I believe that he's hopefully starting to prove the doubters wrong. There's no doubt about it. He's been unlucky with some injuries and what have you, but having Danilo coming back, the re-emergence and the resurgence of Nico Raskin has been phenomenal for him, to be honest with you. So much so that he's actually putting Barron out of the team, who I thought earlier in the season was going to be a stick-on for our Player of the Year, to be honest with you, and he's taken his jersey off him. So, which is great to see competition in the team. Having the contract situation, I think I said, with Hadji sorted out as well, that's been massive. He's lost John Suter now, which is a blow. I don't think we've actually been told or been made aware how long that's going to be for, or given any indication that. I agree with Cammy and what he's saying, that he does need another centre-half in there. We've got an aging Leon Balogun, who I think we all agree can't play more than 2 games in a week, or certainly playing at 90 minutes twice in a week for us. The jury's still much very out Robin proper, and we've got an unproven Liam King as well sitting there in the wings. So I do think we need another centre-half. I think we need to back him in that respect. We do need that other centre midfield, and I'm looking for someone possibly with that bit more experience, what Cammy said, but also that bit more aggression. I think that's where sometimes just that where Diamandi just lacks, especially in the middle of the park and Old Firm games. I think he just lacks that slightly just bit of aggression to go there. Something like a kind of John Lundstrom style aggression, where you're really kind of an enforcer in the middle of the park, someone who's willing to put the hard tackles in and win the ball back. And for me, after not taking a penalty yesterday, Cyril Dessers is finished for me as far as a Rangers player is concerned. Tavernier came out, one of his interviews that I saw, I think it was actually the Premier Sports interview. Tavernier came out and he thanked every single player who was man enough, and when I'm quoting that word for word, was man enough to take a penalty kick yesterday. And you've got a striker there who portrays himself to be our main number 9 and is unwilling to take a penalty kick, so much so that he's willing to watch our goalkeeper take a penalty kick before him. Granted, the goalkeeper took it and scored, but ultimately still he was willing to watch our goalkeeper possibly become the fall guy. And for me, that's unacceptable. Ibrox, he's got to go back into the changing room and look every single one of those guys in the eyes, at the end of the game. And for me, he's let them all down by not taking a penalty kick. And after that, I want him out of the club, and I want to see him replaced as soon as possible with someone with more experience and better quality.
Yeah, no, that's very well said there, Ryan. Very well said. Yeah, it's been a hard defeat to take. There's definitely improvements in the team. I think Clement does see another day, so to speak. We need
Andrew,
in January.
Andrew, can I just quickly come in just off the back of what Ryan's saying? I'm pleased that we've touched on the choice of the penalty takers. Philip Clement didn't want to throw Cyril Dessers under the bus when he was asked about it in his post-match, and I think he said that he was down to take the 6th penalty. I was in a lot of conversations with people last night, and they spoke about his confidence and all this sort of situation. What's the difference between taking the 4th penalty and the 6th penalty? You're still under pressure. If it's 5 each and you're taking the 6th penalty, you still have to put it in the back of the net.
Sudden death, yeah.
I'm not saying the manager's lying, but I don't believe that Cyril Dessers was the 6th penalty taker. I genuinely don't believe that. A number 9 should always be one of the first 5. A left back and a goalkeeper. That's embarrassing. I would be embarrassed to walk into that changing room. But my only issue was around the fact that the manager said he was down. That was planned to take the 6th penalty. You get your best 5 to take the first 5 penalties. Tav takes the first one as the best penalty taker, and then you follow it on for there. I think Adam Ida, takes the penalty for them, penalty taker. So that's how it goes. Your centre forward that wants to score 20-25 goals a season, skulking away there, hiding because he's scared because he doesn't want to take a penalty. I don't want to see Cyril Dessers wearing a Rangers jersey ever again.
I'll be honest as well, Dessers looked more jaded and more knackered than most of the players on that pitch yesterday, and he'd only featured in a few minutes of the game on Thursday, and he came on in extra time yesterday. So, I think despite Egeman not having the most busiest game, he still looked a little better than Dessers, which says a lot. But we're going to have to wrap up now, guys. There's plenty of talking points, and we'll get through loads more talking points later in the week. There's lots coming on the Rangers Journal network, so do look out for that. This week's Ibrox Channel show will be on the Rangers Journal on Friday, so do look out for that. Ricky, Cammy and Ryan, thank you ever so much. And of course, Gary, thank you as well for joining us. There's been a lot to dissect tonight. And there'll be lots to talk about in the week. But don't forget, guys, especially at home, get liking, get subscribing, and don't forget, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Take care, everyone. See you.